I'm very curious to know about your board structure. How many people on your board? What were the determining factors that that went into you?
Yeah, so for me, so our board is quite small, just me, Genevieve, and just the three of us. We have two observers who are also a couple of our investors are observers. I think two or three of them are observers. And then there's just three of us that are on the board, me, Genevieve, and our lead investor. I think for startups that are really, really early, I don't think you should have a huge board. I think you could have like a huge advisory board, but for a proper board, I think I just don't think it's advisable if you're like a small startup trying to make things work. Your seed stage startups trying to make things work. I would say go in the smaller board. I think there are cases where it might be used to have a bigger board, maybe your fintech, and you need a lot of people in the industry on your board to signal to signal certain things. But for us, it's really easy. We have the phone numbers of our lead investors. We need to make a decision. It's just a WhatsApp text away. Like yesterday, we need to know if we need to take a loan for something, and I just chatted him, and he just said, "Hey, that's cool." And that's about it. And I think for us, there's a need to, we still need to be moving fast. And you know how Facebook at the beginning was like move fast and break things, and then they moved on to move fast with stable infrastructure. Not as catchy, but like I think right for most seed stage startups, they stay in the move fast and break things stage. And so like for you to be able to make better decisions, for you to be quicker with your decision making, I think it's important to not have to deal with body politics and whatnot. So that's just my own view.
So what went into you deciding who could be on your board and who isn't? Because I assume that you have more than one investor.
Yeah, it's the lead investor. That's why he's on our board. He's the lead investor, give us the biggest check size. And one of his requirements was that if he's going to lead around, he wants to be on the board. And that we were fine with that.
Yeah, so it was actually, we had just, I think, and that was what we brought to, once we had secured the lead investor and we were, knew that he wanted to sit on the board and we were comfortable with it and felt like we had a good understanding on both sides of what that relationship would look like going forward. Then when we were going out and raising the other checks, that was kind of just part of the terms that we were showing to folks of saying, hey, this is what we have our lead investor, this is what the board structure is going to look like after this happens, and then just kind of making sure that any new person coming in understood that up front and was comfortable with it. And then it is, like Shoga said, having the advisory board option, and then also the option to have board observers who sit in on your board meetings but don't have any voting power in the board. I think that's also another good kind of middle ground to have if people would like to have a little bit more visibility and be a little bit more a part of those board meetings. Then that's a good option to also just get their input and advice at each time that the board is meeting. So I think that's something that we found that we've gotten a ton of use out of, and I'm really grateful for the board observers that we do have.
Cool.